Good morning, everyone. Microphone check. Screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good, good. Oh, man, running a little bit behind schedule this morning. Of course, everything decides to blow up in your face like 2 minutes before you have to start something. You know how it is. Good old life at its finest. But as per the usual, hopefully you had a good day off yesterday and were able to rest up and all that fun stuff over yesterday. If you did trade, hopefully you had a good day of trading. I know yesterday had a decent amount of volatility, but I personally stayed out for the most part. That said, as per the usual, when we're jumping in here, feel free to, on the right side of the screen, read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. All right. I just want to take a second that we do every day as well to thank all of our new members, subscribers, and welcome them all, Academy students, VIPs, and everyone in between. Welcome to the SSFTG family. I'm super excited to have you all on board. If you aren't a part of SSFTG yet, there are a ton of different ways to join up. The easiest way is a YouTube member with a join button below the stream there. Gets you in the chat room for Discord, the YouTube community board, stock and crypto chart posts, and just a bit more behind the scenes and what's going on. Of course, if you want to understand how we do everything with a trading approach and how we do everything all day, every day, etc., check out the Day Trading Academy along with VIP memberships and everything else that are waiting for you over at ssftg.com. So whether you're here for the first time or the 1,000th, good morning, welcome. I hope you're all ready to rock and roll alongside of me today, analyzing these crazy markets of ours. Don't forget to take a look again at the morning DP levels. Those are posted for you every single morning on the Major 7. You got to grab those. Whoops, forgot to delete the holiday here. Anyway, the Major DP levels are posted for you every single morning on the Major 7. Nasdaq, S&P, Gold, Crude, Euro, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. We've got some pretty good movement going on across the board here. Lots of things herky-jerking around. As far as the news calendar is concerned, we don't have a ton of stuff to really worry about today. That's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. The news calendar is just kind of quiet. Now, as far as the overall news that we have today, the only thing is at 10 o'clock. That's the JOLTS job openings for September. Forecast is 10.3 million. Yeah, that's really about it. We're going into Friday, U.S. Baker Hughes oil rig count and CFTC speculative net positions and all that other stuff happening too later this afternoon. But that's it. All right. Get these out of the way. Take a look at the Nasdaq and see what's going on so far on this rally to the upside. We still have the 60-minute chart loaded up, and one thing that stands out very obviously is just how pent up this springed or coiled up spring is, whatever you want to call it. As far as the overall momentum that we have going on, obviously the bulls are in charge and they're winning every fight that they've ever come across. But, I mean, really, this is the first time that we've had a pullback in quite a while. And one thing that I love about pullbacks is how often they come into value. And if we look at the last pullback was give or take about 1,700 ticks. If we look at this last pullback, this one landed at about 2,220. If you look at the support that came in the 1,700 zone, though, it's very obvious that we know what's going on, right? We're seeing a lot of value coming into play, and if shorts were looking to take profit at value and they thought it was going to go through, well, they're not thinking it's going to go through anymore. It's not to say that the sellers can't get another leg to the downside. In fact, that would be even more beneficial, arguably. If we look at the overall cycle, we've got wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4. We can kind of see what's going on, right? One more wave to the downside. That does kind of make sense. If we're looking at it in a micro structure to the upside, this original rally started off with an L5 that rotated into an L4, and then finally went screaming all the way off to the highs. Couldn't even get an L1, couldn't get the L1, finally got the L1, and then went screaming all the way back up to the highs. I don't think they've pulled back to anything since then, except for right now. Now, obviously, one thing stands out. Buyers tried buying the top of the L1. It worked momentarily. And then it very quickly didn't work. It's just ripped their faces off all the way down to the bottom of the L1, which so far has been working out pretty well. Now, the overall momentum that we're getting here from a volume perspective, what the heck just happened to my drawing? From a volume perspective, going all the way up to the top. And before this freaks out on me, let's swap this over to minute. Still don't want to do it, huh? All right. Fair enough. Really? Okay. 15,422 quarter is the POC that they left behind. And if we go across all of the price action, it's still there. Although we can see there is a monstrous amount of volume that traded up in the 16,350s-ish. So 15,420, that's a really long way away. that's really far away. If we look at the overall volume nodes that have increased, we've got the POC, which is here, and the next volume node, which is right here. It's incredibly obvious that that doesn't require a whole lot more, and all of a sudden we have a new POC. Not to mention that we have volume up here as well. So assumably, if we're using the old noggin this morning, we've got sellers who were selling originally in here, building little bits and pieces on the way up, but not really succeeding in any momentum to the downside, meaning that their average is likely floating around inside here. As it continues back up, we have a big block of selling. It looks like they doubled it down, right? So they doubled it down. We know that their average is here, which brings their average up to about here. They were still not let out, and it continued on up to the next area where they began selling a little bit more. Nothing crazy, just about a quarter of a position, and then a big addition to the position. Not enough to take over a POC, but definitely enough to draw the average up, right? Now, if we're looking at the average is probably floating somewhere around here. Right around the 15,500s to 600s. That would be a realistic zone to expect. But then we put this up in the top. Now with this migrates the POC a little bit further up. Now we're starting to creep up into the 15,900s. Right? So this move down doesn't necessarily have to go all the way down to the 422s. We can see very obviously that sellers are building up. But we do not have that distinctive third POC bump in volume that we usually do. We've got the 1, we've got the 2, and they haven't so far given us the 3. That's what we're waiting for right now. And until we have that, well, the bulls are still very likely in charge and buying on the pullback. From a cycle standpoint, pretty straightforward. We've got wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and wave 4, again, I would really like to see this pull back a little bit further, but dip down into these 15,800s, down into the L2, get that L2 test, and then rocket that thing all the way back up to the highs, and that gives us a 382 perfect extension above the top, right in the 16,520s. Now, does the market have to do that? Of course not. I mean, the market's going to do whatever it is that it wants to do. But that layout seems pretty favorable in terms of the overall structure. As far as what's going on here. We've got 3 waves down waiting for the 4th and 5th. They're working on the 4th. The 5th one down into the L2 would fit perfectly. And this is a beautiful rotation up. The only caveat, a lot of times when we have this pullback, which ends up being underneath the moving average cluster, and again, the moving average values are totally irrelevant. It does not matter what values you use for a moving average. We're just talking fast, medium, slow. That's all it comes down to. When the pullback zone on an L2 or even an L1 sometimes is underneath the moving average cluster, it becomes a bit challenging for the bulls to get that first bounce out of there because they're fighting against the trend, right? At that point, that is a trend. So in order for the bulls to turn this back to the upside, sometimes it does have to dig down a little bit into those 3s. Something to pay attention to. If we're looking at it from a 382 to 382, it fits almost perfectly. But if we're looking at a little bit of an extension down, then we've got about, 618. Still technically fits. We'll see. There's a lot of things that can happen here. At the moment, though, I don't necessarily want to be the first one to be catching the knife, is what I'm getting at. The bulls are trying to rotate it back to the upside. We know the bulls are incredibly strong. It's just a matter of where they want to show up to the party. Same thing goes for the S&P. There's literally no difference. The one thing that stands out is that we had the bulls peaking up at the top. They tried to get it to go higher, failed. Tried to get it to go higher, failed. Rolled down to a new low. Tried to get out at break even. Triple top. Rolled down again. New low. Now we're seeing the exact same formation. If this does want to gain some legs to the downside, we could definitely see this pushing farther down. Major zone of support would be underneath the pulse low at 46.2575, but a little bit lower into the 46.15s or 10s would be a logical point. Otherwise, there's not much of a difference. As far as gold is concerned, Jumbotron spiked to the upside, and that's it. There's not really much else that's happened. We have this kind of pause that's going on. We have this giant bull rally to the upside that broke aggressively out, and since then, well, we're just kind of wedging. Not really doing much of anything. So, as it stands, we have a little bit of, after that breakout, lift to the upside and a lower high. Let's see how the market responded. They built up a Actually, first off, let's see how they responded to the impulse. Let's stretch this thing out a little bit. The impulse on that rally to the upside seems to find all of the volume at around the 52s. Interesting. So when the market does come back down, maybe these were shorts. They were trying to get that continuation, but they failed. And when they're failing, coming back down to that point of interest, we're seeing them jump ship. I mean, this is kind of making sense, you know? It's really tough to want to be a buyer way the heck up here, but, well, stop. All right, let me extend this a little bit further to the new higher low. And we've got a POC right up at the top. So if the bulls are going to break higher, they're going to have to get above the settlement, get above the 65s, and continue this back to the upside. But it seems like the sellers are not winning any fights. Over on crude oil, predominantly sideways after that big bearish slide on the inventories, the big slide to the downside. Really, I mean, it hasn't stopped. It's just kind of grinding its way lower. The inventories did not come out as expected based on the API rather. If you go back on Wednesday and watch that recording back, I know we weren't here yesterday, but we were here on Wednesday and we were trading into the inventories going into the extended session for members and VIPs. That should be up and you'd be able to watch that there. But going into the inventories, we had a potential long with the anticipation that it was going to be a bullish response. They came out as a negative number. Thank you, Financial Juice, for giving us the heads up, because had we not had the heads up ahead of time, it would not have been able to get out as a break even or slightly positive, and then watch this thing collapse all the way to the downside. So definitely, definitely swerved that long there. It did not work for the continuation of the upside, but to be fair, well, the numbers came out worse than expected. So we had a heads up, got out, and swerved the whole move to the downside, and now it's working its way lower. If we're looking at this overall cycle, they did make a new high, right? So we popped up above a new high, but since then, man, they haven't been able to do a thing. So if we go all the way to this low to the high and see how they're impulsing this move, probably going to be in the middle, right? Around 81, 82? Yeah, 81.95. So as far as a POC on an impulse perspective goes, we have the POC, which is lining here. They tried getting the rally to go way above the highs, failed. Shorts re-enter into the move to the downside. What do you want to bet? That's a scalper's target that they're bouncing off of down here. Oh, that's weird. Who would have guessed? They got their scalper's objective, which is what they're bouncing off of at the moment, taking profit ahead of, even front-running pretty aggressively into the DPs. We've got the next push to the downside, which may be trying to line up for a wedge. We don't have the break yet, and we do know that scalpers are the ones that are definitively taking profit. If they break back above, chances are we'll see them jump ship, and we'll have that rotation back to the upside. For now, the bears are in control. Next POC zone of congestion just underneath the 7960s? Yeah, 7970s in that area. Over on the Euro's just went, I mean, it got dumpstered all the way back down to the lows. That's what happens in a bear trend, right? When a bear trend is going, and from the left to the right, it's, you know, it makes an angle like this. That tends to keep happening. Either way, the sellers did follow through. They're getting the continuation to the downside. Hey, laddie, how's it going? Good morning, good morning. The sellers are on the Euro, and they are continuously just railing this thing to the downside, all the way down now into the 1.14s. This is what I would have expected to be an avalanche wedge, but now it's gone on too far, and we have ourselves a good old spike and channel. I don't like that one. How about this? That looks a little better. So we've got ourselves a spike and channel working our way on the downside. We know how these operate. Typically a spike and channel, when it's working its way down, eventually it will break, comes back to the channel beginning point, and that's usually where sellers regain their confidence to the downside. A lot of times you'll also be able to compensate that with a middle-weighted POC with the bulls trying to get stuck. Yep, there it is. And we've got the POC at 14,750 backing it up. So sellers don't want to sell way the heck down here. They want to sell a pop. Problem is they're setting right on top of settlement. Tough zone. Bitcoin, nice flush to the downside, finally pulling back off of the highs, almost made it up into the 69,000s on this last rally to the upside, although that isn't, you know, I mean, depends on the exchanges. Some, I don't know if any exchanges pushed over 70,000, but I think some came closer. Either way, we've got into the 69,000s at the very least, or very, very close, a couple bucks above, and then cycled all the way back to the downside. After that rotation to the downside, I am not going to put an order flow on this because it's going to crash Ninja. But very realistically, when we have this kind of momentum, a lot of traders, like we were talking about, are either going to be taking profit ahead of the 70,000 psychological mark, or they're going to be looking for the big 100. right? Everybody's kind of looking for those highs, seeing what happens. We know, like we were talking about on Wednesday, that December, November, those usually aren't very friendly months for the cryptosphere, and maybe we're starting to see that come in now. Maybe, right? We already do know that we are in a totally different phase. This is no longer that 70-80% pullback market, obviously. This is the monstrous, catastrophic blow-off on the highs, keep screaming higher kind of move. Well, we haven't really seen that yet. Maybe this is a fake out. We'll see. Really awkward timing for everything to happen here. Ethereum didn't hit 5,000 yet either. Getting pretty close. No, I want you over here. All right. What? Where did my charts go? Let's try again. There they are. All right, there we go. No, don't close that window. Perfect. All right. Going into the Nasdaq specifically, and kind of looking at what's going on here. I mean, realistically, we can see on the Nasdaq that it's mostly chopped up and sideways and not really doing much. If we zoom way out, we can see yesterday seems like, at least, it was an attempt from the sellers to try to drive down. Like, come on, you stupid thing, go down. They couldn't get it to go down. Likely, they built a POC up at the top eventually and probably started exiting on scalps, right? That would be the assumption. So let's see if they were able to get that. Of course, I can't because Ninja has bugged data, but let's see if this will give us enough of a clue. Okay. So if we're measuring off of the scalp, if we're measuring off of the scalp distance from the highs to the POC, we can see definitively yesterday that there was scalping support. So scalpers were looking to get that dive down to the 2-to-1 and they missed it. So when they missed the 2-to-1, they re-out at the scalper's objective and we see it cycle back up above. Now we're above break even. Chances are we're going to see that start acting as support next. I want to see the sellers try to take it back over, but realistically it's not making too much sense. Now, again, that's with some bugged volume. That doesn't necessarily help, but at least it gives us something to work with. There we go. Okay, we've got the open right around the corner here. Give me 2 seconds, and then we'll rock and roll. I will be right back. Let me make this bigger so we can see it. 55. Get that BRB on there. All right, be right back. All right, we're back. Good morning, good morning. Hey, how's it going? All right. Dipping back to those 75s. That is going to be a little bit of a point of interest. That's where the earlier shorts were getting out. Remember, 16.075 now going into the open around the corner. There's definitely something to be said with some of this potential support here. Let's see how they want to play ball. Heavy bear pressure, but no follow-through. Still hasn't reached out and grabbed it. Round 2. 928 around the corner. Really awkward timing here. See if 928 is the fuel they need to get that pulse down there. All right, nice little dip down into that zone. Now, if they do get excess follow-through, then the likely zone that they move down to is their scalper's target at 67.75. Otherwise, I'm looking for a continuation pulse back to the upside for the shorts to effectively get kind of slam-a-jammed. I'll keep the S&P open here as well. Got about a minute and a half until the open, right around the corner here. So upside objective at the moment is going to be floating around like the 81s. Downside area of interest for shorts, if they are going to give it one more shot on the greed aspect, is going to be the 67.75s. What would honestly be kind of nice would be to see the open quickly flush down and fill their targets to get them out of the way, and watch it jerk all the way right back up again. On the 15-minute chart, they're going to be closing out a relatively heavy reversal, so there are some concerns. It's by no means clear sailing. Fills their objectives. And final objective, back off on the completion up. Not as good of a rotation as I wanted, but I would like to see them hold back above that. I love the fact that they close back above the 75s. How does this next bear bar respond? Sorry, let me get, there we go. Can they close above it? Weak bear bar? Okay. Maybe a little bit better down in the low 68 quarters. They're not able to stay above that. That's the problem. First off, the whole reason I wanted to go long is the short's assumably stuck getting out. Well, not if it slides through it. Alright, well, they're still having issues. Looking at the more recent, from the bottom to the top as to where we are now, I guess, since we don't have a whole lot to work with from the morning. We're kind of finding some balance on the lower side, but the major one's up at 75. Five-minute POC, obviously still building. Little dip in these 65s could offer up the longs an opportunity to pick it back up again. But again, I've got to sit on the side of caution just a little bit given how this is moving. Now, if they can dig into the 52 quarters, I would be a little bit more interested. If they do pulse to the upside, I've only got the one, but it's like in the 70s-ish. Would that make it up to 68.50? 68 quarter, gotcha. Boy, you gotta love the open. See how they respond to this break-even point. There we go. Nice little continuation phase back to the upside to complete the scalp. I was only able to get the one, but let's see how they want to deal with this last POC. They're still having trouble with it. If we expand this whole thing out, looking at what's going on from yesterday, we've got... Well, not really much has changed, I guess, huh? Look at this jumbo POC inside here. Ugh. Maybe not that close. There we go. Yeah, they're still not able to get above it. Man! Nope. From the swing perspective, as far as zones of interest from the swing perspective, I mean, really, I don't think we have too much going for the swing longs yet. There's, if anything, possibility for the swing shorts would be right now on the micro Nasdaq for a possibility of a swing short. It would fit. You know, we've got 3 lower highs, a beautiful reversal point. This is the spot where shorts will be looking for a continuation down. But their reward is like 3 to 1, you know? It doesn't even have to make a new low. That's the cool thing. So swing shorts are definitely looking for areas of interest here, especially if they can get better entries above the 65s, which is likely why it's been having such a hard time up here. Nice rotation down. They quickly trapped above the highs and then rotated down. But within that movement, we also are kind of jerking below this previous little inside swing, too. So we've got a little bit of, like, they're trying to trap each other. Who's even the smaller POCs in the same spot? You know a lot of volume traded when the small POC's in the same spot as the big one. Oof. We're still very much in a range, still kind of stuck inside it. I can't use the volume from yesterday because otherwise it bugs out. But this lower high up here is, it's definitely challenging. First 5-minute POC is in, 71.50 on the Nasdaq. First 5-minute POC on the S&P is at 46.53. Dr. Seuss over here. All right. Sellers are obviously attempting to gain some control. Likely objective is going to be settlement. There's going to be a lot of stops underneath that 37 quarter. The question is, when they get down there, do those stops get eaten up like they're candy? Or does it actually break through and start falling apart? At the moment, the swing shorts are winning. I mean, it's pretty obvious to see why, but... We'll see what they're able to keep going. Nice cycle to the downside. Scalpers will have some resistance to work with off of the 51 quarters, although as we dig down here into the 40 quarters, this is where a lot of support starts setting in too. So the short term is still very bearish, but we don't have a whole lot of room. All right, getting the dive down into the lows. Settlement is the objective. Let's see what happens underneath this low. Does this stop out get eaten? Nope. Where are they going to close? Okay, nope. They're gone. All of them gave up right there. They tried getting the bounce. Couldn't get it. Swing shorts are still active, working for their downside objectives. What a flush. Market falling apart right now. Ooh, baby, look at that. Now, this could get pretty nasty. Remember, though, it doesn't have to make a new low. That's not a necessity. I mean, from the low to where they are now. Yeah. Whoa, whoa. Now, wait, hold the phone. Uh-oh. We got to see how they respond to this. The whole thing from the bottom to the top is a massive POC down here. And the POC's jumping around a little bit. They're staying under it, though. Okay, good. Sellers still holding it. A little bit of friction inside there, though. The overall rotation, I guess, considering that they made a lower high, it would be the impulse. Would be all the way down here at 24. It's the same spot, but they're breaking through that. Sellers will be looking for a resumption of trend off of that. We are digging down into aggressive territory. Whenever you have big moves like this, it's always a good idea to zoom out to the wider time frame. Where are we? Right? We're making big moves. Something's happening, but where are we? Well, we're very near a previous swing low. This is a dangerous spot to keep shorting. Now, if this bear bar, which we've still got some time, if this bear bar on the 15 can close underneath this, then this thing opens up pretty heavy. So the bears are still very much in charge. POC's holding down at the 24s. Sellers are trying to get the rotation lower. It would be nice to see them go back up into those 24s for a continuation down. We do know that the swing shorts still have not fulfilled their targets, although they've got to be getting close, right? Yeah, they're getting there. It's about 16,000 even is going to be the target for them. That's a really crap spot to try to look for a target. Yeah, maybe front running that a little bit makes sense. This, I mean, it kind of makes sense why we're getting some bouncing here. My concern on the bigger picture is this nothing more than just sellers who got stuck on this move down getting out at break even? If we measure the overall POC from the bottom across, we can see that that's likely not the case. The sellers are winning right now. 3 lower highs, that's why there's a swing short, right? This has the potential to open up way down to the lows. We could be very easily into the 15,700s by the end of the day. So even though it feels like it's selling low right now, that's just relative. 16,000 is a big level of support that's in the way. POC bottom waiting on the 5-minute and still closing underneath it. Look at the pressure that's coming in. Wow. All right, nice bull bar to the upside. A little bit of bull pressure coming in off of that, too. They're getting up to those 24s, that POC. Right up there. There we go. Nice little poke. I missed the secondary fill. Fantastic. There we go. And there's the dive down. Couldn't get a fill on that first portion. Let's see if we can get that secondary pulse down to grind through this. Beautiful. Quickly snap back up, but they close that bear. Ooh, man, did they close that bearish. Quick snap up, sellers to re-up into that move. Closing above creates some issues, so I'll lighten the load a little bit. Good thing, too. Next zone of interest is going to be up just into this area more as a spike and channel, although I would like to see them try to challenge that little inside swing from before. The POC at 25 is now attempting to hold as support, so we've got to see the seller show up to the party sooner than later. Beautiful flush back down. There we go. Only had the one. I lightened the load just to play it on the safe side. That wasn't worth holding on to the risk in case it wanted to reverse above that POC again. But yeah, we got it to rotate down. It's only scalping territory inside here. Kind of missed the whole move to the downside in between there. It didn't really offer up any way to get in unless you were aggressively, very aggressively selling. I just didn't want to hit the gas pedal that early. Some follow-through momentum, still holding back underneath the POC. Trying to challenge that previous little shelf they made down here in the 20s. There they go. Nice little pulse underneath that little shelf. Continuation phase to the downside. There's a lot of support at 10. Well, there was the first time around. Nice bear bar. Can we get a lift up into the 20s? Shorts would like a little lift up into the 20s. Maybe not now. Not as a bull engulfing candle coming now. Hold up now. Nice bull bar would likely be a terrible entry point, but I do think there's enough momentum to try to get a little bit of a lift up through the 20s. Or not. Okay. I'm trying to play it as safe as I can on the risk side, but, ooh, man, they're not making it easy. All right, we do get a rotation right underneath the 10s, immediately snap back up. POC on the 5-minute at 15, still staying low. Over on the S&P, they're still not able to close underneath settlement. Got about a minute left. Oh man, that Nasdaq is looking vicious right now. Heavy, heavy bear bar. Triggering the sellers right into the low. Incredibly difficult spot to sell. That's so hard to sell there. Yep. Greedy sellers selling at the low. See if we can get a pulse into that POC back up into the 20s. I couldn't get a fill. Fantastic. A little bit of a jerk back up towards the POC or a dive back down would be nice underneath or closer towards the 15s. Didn't get a fill on the scalp out. Retesting the POC. And pressuring up into the zone of interest. There's the trap area that we wanted. All right, looking for the rotation down. Although the short side average isn't the most favorable location in the world, the overall pressure works out pretty nicely. That's a really nice bear bar too. I'll reduce a little bit at break even just to modify the risk a bit down into that point of interest at the POC. Now we can see if we can shove through this POC. They couldn't get the job done. Sellers pressuring back down off of that bull move, though. They could still be trying to trap traders. Juked above the high very quickly and then snapped down real fast. First area off. I'll take some off at that scalp. That's fine just to mitigate a little bit of risk, but we'll see if they can follow through with a bit more. They're still not able to get through the POC, but they're still plotting these really solid bear bars. POC shifting. POC shifting again. Wait a minute now. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. Push on through to the other side. There we go. Back underneath that short-term POC. Want to see resistance stack back up off of that. There's the resistance stacking back up off of it. Nice. Can they follow through a little bit more? We've got really, really nice sell side resistance. Another test of that POC would likely just be more resistance. Give me some, yeah, there we go. Give me some popcorn. Give me those bears. Bull bar back up. Triggering back up. I'm going to liquidate that last one. They closed back above the POC. That was my defense, and unfortunately I've only got that one, so I've got to take it as is. They're probably just trapping it, but I've got to follow the plan. They've got to stay below that POC. Yeah, and immediately it jukes down, so we know what's going on. It's unfortunate, but there's a reason a plan exists. It keeps you out of trouble more often than not. This time, a little salt in the wound. Now, very unlikely that we're going to see this correct back up, right? Very unlikely. There's way too much FOMO going on right now, right? So that's one of those scenarios where it's like, okay, pull back, please, pull back. It's not going to, okay? It doesn't matter how much you want it to, it's not going to. There's way too much pressure. The bulls got FOMO'd out, right? We know what's going on, right? Now, those who didn't follow their plan and FOMO'd back in, this time it worked in their favor. Hopefully they scalped out down into the lows, but if they didn't, they're going to be running into some trouble pretty quick, and that gives us the context of, wait a minute, the shorts just tried getting this to squeeze down, they got FOMO'd in, what do you think is happening right now? I'm actually going to utilize this as a possibility for a long for a continuation back up. I think the shorts are a little bit in the FOMO side. And those shorts are feeling that pain. Now, it's a little bit aggressive, and I want to see it jump relatively quickly, and if it can't, then so be it, right? But this is the kind of momentum that I want to see for that continuation back up on a psychological trap. Tried grabbing the scalp target, but unfortunately for me, I couldn't grab it. Cycle back down into the bulls, picking up off of the lows. That's not going to do a whole lot for me unless they can jump back up above the 16s relatively quickly. Big snaps to these moves is crazy. Nice bull bar back up. I'm going to look to jump ship, and, well, I was going to try to jump ship on both of them, but I got the one off. The fact that they rotated back up like that's a surefire tell that they're trying to get some trapping going on. So I don't want to hold on to the full move. It doesn't make sense. Especially if they start triggering under these bear bars. The bulls so far are still lining up a lot more defense than I thought they would. But, again, I still have to lighten the load. If we do get a jump to the upside, then looking at the 2-to-1 now, since I've only got the 1, would be up at 30.5. Yeah, 31. Bullish continuation back to the upside. We'll see if they can follow it through. We're back up to the POC. They've got to work through it. Resistance off of that point. They're trying, but nah, I'm going to jump ship. They're losing too much ground. I tried getting that little bounce rotation to the upside, but I'm not going to hold on to that risk anymore. The longs are missing their opportunity, and as they miss their opportunity, they're going to gain more and more bearish sentiment. Yeah, see? It's just not worth it. Too much pressure. Although they're still not able to get through the lows. Quick little juke underneath the base. See how they respond to this shorter term POC. We're right in front of the bear's targets. But it hasn't quite finished the job yet. All right, testing that POC again and jumping back up above it. The bulls are tenacious. More likely, to be totally honest, more likely it's the bears that are taking profit and why its tenacity is so aggressive, because they don't want to give up their profit. I mean, put yourself in the shoes. I know I'm only, playing with like 1 or 2 contracts, maybe up to like 5 sometimes. But put yourself in the shoes of like a JP Morgan and the crew, right? Where they're floating hundreds of contracts. They can't just market out of all of them. Well, if they do, it's going to cause the market to go a little bit crazy. So they've got to liquidate a little bit. And if they're fearful that they're giving up some of their profit down here when it's missed their major objective by a handful of ticks, they're going to start liquidating 5, 6, or 7 contracts ahead of the time, right? Now, if you amplify that by thousands of contracts, you can kind of see how that can create what we're seeing here. It's making a mess. Back above the short-term POC. And in a little bit of a fist fight. Looking across the board, there's not really much going on in any of the other markets. What is that time frame? That's a 15-minute chart on Bitcoin? That looks terrible. Yeesh. Not an ounce of news today either. There's nothing going on. Very quiet. The next thing's at 10 o'clock, right around the corner. And then that's it. So, we'll see. Bulls trying to creep it back to the upside, getting back above this longer-term POC. If we zoom way, way out and we look at the overall move, this has actually rotated down to an even larger low. Let's look over. How big of a low is this? This is a pretty big new low. I mean, the last one is like this little bitty one over here. Otherwise, I mean, really, it's down there. So this is a big cycle. From the bottom to the top, if we're looking at the overall move... Oh, that's right. My volume's bugged. Dang it. All right, well... I keep wanting to build the context there, but anyway, we can see what's going on. They're driving off of that POC in the overall spectrum, and they're trying to dig it down. So if we look at the overall move, right, well, surely they have broken through the scalp objectives, right? Okay, check mark. Next objective, 2 to 1. Nope, just missed it. That's probably going to fill sooner than later. But we'll see what they want to do for right now. Getting a nice rotation to the upside. We are breaking above a new high. So structurally, we're changing things a little bit. Shorts very likely got stuck on this original move. And we can see some of them hit the escape hatches, right? The break-evens inside there. can definitely see where they're hitting them inside there, with a continuation back up. If we roll this all the way back up to the highs where we are now, we've kind of left everyone behind back in the 19s. Very nice aggressive short-term support in the low 30s. We've got news right around the corner. Be careful up here. Swing shorts will be looking for opportunities to re-up back to the downside. Speaking of swing shorts, where's my micro Nasdaq? All right, I'm going to add a couple on the micro Nasdaq for a swing short here and a continuation phase to the downside. This overall phasing is with the assumption that the sellers will achieve their objectives, because that's usually how it works. Now, we are dealing with 16,000, so I'm mitigating that risk by floating with the micro and dealing with smaller size. But this is a definitive zone of interest as we creep in here. Downside objectives at the moment then would be down at 16,000 or just underneath. Hang on one second. I didn't get a single one up here. At least give me one. I'll just take one. Fine. Anyway, so the micro Nasdaq is potentially building that short move back to the downside. Short-term objectives, we already kind of know what's going on. The targets would be 97. We'll go 98s. Next one would be down here at the 16,000s or just ahead. So 16,002s. And let's play it safe. We'll front run that a little bit further into structure. Kind of split the difference. And then the larger objective would be down, I mean, we'll see how far it can go, you know. Where's the next objective after that? 958? I mean, if this thing wants to open the door. So, possibility of a swing short, but mitigating risk by utilizing the micro. Also making it so that I can still trade the mini as we go into the extended session, so. Got about a minute and a half as we go into 10 o'clock, right around the corner. We are transitioning over into the extended session and all that fun stuff. Of course, along with that, feel free to get those questions in. We'll get those covered for you. I'm going to grab another one in the micro up here. It's an acceptable point. It's a little bit above where I wanted it before. And that means that I'll float an additional objective on the micro a little bit further up. Now we can start playing some scalp. There we go. All right. Actually, I'm going to move that first objective up to 26. Yeah. I think it fits more there. On the micro Nasdaq, first off at 26. Just kind of playing the scalp game. Otherwise, looking for that big move to the downside. Hasn't happened yet. We've got news in 30 seconds. Right around the corner. We also have the top of the hour, which means that we transition over into the extended session. Let's see how this bad boy wants to move. All right. Nice flush. 10 o'clock hits. First target hit. Wow. Nice little push.
73 spot 2, 73 spot 2, lower than the forecast is 77 spot 2.
Looking for the next continuation phase a little bit further down if they're able to get it.
62 spot 8, lower than the forecast is 68 spot 8. The University of Michigan 1-year inflation coming out at 4.9%. 4.9%. That's in line with the forecast of 4.9%.
But first scale target off. Nice.
Prelim, 2.9%.
Look to add another one at 35-ish or so, and then we can maybe get another scalp going.
JOLTS, US JOLTS job openings coming out at 10.438 million. 10.438 million.
Really? Okay.
As compared to the forecast of 10.3 million.
Nasdaq's tough. There we go. You get another little Paparino down there. So again, just playing the scalp game. Not seeing any questions coming in as we go into the extended session. I think. Let me double check real quick. I believe everything is as it should be. Oh no, that's way off. Wow. Okay, so I feel terrible now. I just refreshed my my YouTube studio, and because I didn't have a single word in chat, nothing from the YouTube side, and I was like, man, what's going on? Like, did I piss somebody off? What happened? What happened? And I just refreshed it, and now I see a million chats that I totally missed. So first off, I apologize to everybody. I wasn't ignoring you on purpose. I didn't see it. So yeah, I just refreshed the page because I thought it was strange, and now it's just loaded up with messages. That's totally my bad. Well, now that I feel like a dick, I'm gonna keep this going. Let's get the morning session. Let's just keep it rolling. We'll skip the extended session. I'll make something up with that side, but that's totally my bad. Technical glitch. There's nothing I can do about that. That's frustrating. Anyway, so hi, good morning, everybody. I apologize that I did not respond to you. Anyway. He's just in the zone. Nope. That's just no chat. Cool. Anyway, so hi. If I missed something that you said, now that I asked for questions, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Feel free to get those questions in. I'll get those covered for you. We'll roll in a little bit of extended time. I'll try to get some extra videos rolled and recorded for you members on the YouTube side. That way you've got some extra content going into the weekend for the miss. Totally my fault. I hit the like button so you wouldn't feel... Well, thank you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Oh, man. I tell you, it's one of those days. I went to let my dog out earlier. I got yanked down the slide, or we made a ramp for Dexter. For those of you who remember Dexter, our old dog who's recently passed, like maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago now. Man, it's been a while. His hips were going real bad, and so I made him a ramp to go out, and I never got rid of it. Sentimental value, you know. But I tell you what, man, in the winter, that artificial turf is slipperier in hell when he's trying to walk down that stuff. And it's raining, sleeting, kind of gross today, and my dog yanked me right down that thing. That's how my day started. So it's one of those days, you know. Man alive.
November prelim full report, and the US.
This just kind of helps it out.
2021 full report are now available on the Financial News feed if you do want to have a read.
Anyway, well, let's keep it going. We've got the micro Nasdaq. I don't want it to take up that much space. How about like this? That way we can still kind of see the news. Can still see what's going on. We'll still be all right. Good. That's not good. Why am I getting warnings? Well, every time I see warnings, Ninja crashes on me. I'm not a huge fan of that. Okay. Everything seems like it's fine, so maybe it was something else. Whatever. Alright, sellers trying to rotate back to the downside again. As far as the overall momentum that we've got going on for the micro, it's not... I mean, they've got a double top. Like, they're not doing anything. We already know the downside scalp objectives are floating around here. I'm even going to go in it a little bit further. What? Oh, something is wrong with Ninja. Oh, yeah, there it is again. What's happening? Oh, okay. Nah, that's cool. What? Really? Ooh, okay. It's that kind of day. Yeah. Okay, so, obviously, this happens sometimes. Ninja is throwing a fit. I know I've got a couple positions on. Those are not outside of my risk tolerance, so this isn't panic mode. But this is a good example of why you have your broker and your front desk on speed dial. If this was an emergency situation and my charting just crashed, I don't want to be SOL, okay? Now, I know that everything that we set up is totally fine. I'm not concerned about that. But just so we're on the same page, this will happen, and it's good that you get to see how you work through it, because welcome to life, right? So first off, what I like doing when Ninja crashes, because that unfortunately does happen sometimes, more frequently than I would like to admit, what I like doing is going into Documents, NinjaTrader, and clearing things out, making sure that we have a fresh start, all right? Yeah, my whole NinjaTrader just crashed. I've got the micro position on, but I mean, it's fine. We've kept the risk and tolerance, so it's all good. So when this happens, what I like doing is going into Ninja from the documents. So Documents, Ninja 8, go into the database. Oops. Go into the database, and then go into the cache. Delete everything inside of the cache. Go into the day. I don't have anything in the day. Go into, don't delete messages. Go into minute, highlight everything and delete everything in minute. Go into replay. If you have replay data, you can delete that. That usually takes up a lot of space if you've got it. Don't delete snapshot. Go into tick and delete all of those. So what this means is that the next time we start up NinjaTrader, unfortunately, there aren't going to be any charts. They're going to be blank screens, and it's going to take a couple seconds for things to load up. But let me get everything going again. Your Ninja just did that a couple days ago? Yeah. I mean, it happens. You know, it's part of life, so it's good to see how to approach it, right? Now, one of the worst things you can do is freak out, have a panic attack, and, you know, just go nuts and you know, do irrational things. Okay, don't do that. You'll notice my charts are empty now. But again, this is a good reason why you have your front desk on speed dial, so that if something happens, you're good, right? Let me get connected back up again. Now, the first time that we connect back up, this is going to take a minute. It's going to have a little bit of time to load everything back up. We just wiped everything. All of the historical data, all of that stuff is gone. So it's going to take a second. But we'll get everything going. Make sure to empty out your recycle bin, because you probably just deleted about a terabyte worth of garbage.
Acknowledge and welcome the change in tone from Frost. It says that I hope this will lead to a tangible result for Northern Ireland.
Okay. Still waiting for my 500 tick. Should have everything good to go now. We've got that. We've got that chart's all ready to go. We've got Coinbase data. Coinbase. Freaking out. That is many years ago when I first started my Ninja humbling experience. Yeah, seriously. It doesn't get better if you freak out about problems, ever. Never helps. So, okay. Anyway, now that we're ready to rock and roll, we're back again. I think everything is good. We've got all the connections good, all the charts are back up and going, and now I think everything is ready to go. So again, you know, it's something that does happen from time to time, and you got to know how to navigate around those scenarios, because, well, it's going to happen. So you can watch this recording back if you want to. retesting that area of interest. Now, if you're looking back at what is that area of interest, you've got to zoom out a little bit. This is the scalpers re-entry point, right? Remember, the scalpers are looking for shorts. They get their targets. They enter in again, take their targets. 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 Finally goes down further. They take the extended targets down here. When it comes back up, maybe re-up a little bit into the scalp to see if they can get a follow-through rotation down to fill the job. But if it's not going to work, chances are they're going to get out if it rotates above. And that might be the break point for the sellers. So, okay, gotta resize things a little bit. Get this over here. Right there. That's good. Right there. There. Yep, the numbers are getting worse and worse and worse, and, well, generally speaking, when the volatility starts dying, you start going into a range. Downside objectives, a little bit further up. Three. Yeah. Where's that last one? There it is. Okay. I can barely even see the micro Nasdaq. Oh, man.
Sefcovic says we should try to solve problems one by one and not bring new problems to the table.
Market's just kind of going back and forth.
Negotiator is now meeting with EU's Mora.
Some of the cryptos, yeah, whenever we've got a big pullback like this, one of my favorite things to do is look for markets that are on the dip. Now, as far as markets that are on the dip for crypto, hang on one second. It's coin market cap. I still want to find opportunities on the micro. We know what's going on in the swing, whatever. But this is where I like looking for them. But I don't like looking at the trending. Like a lot of these are the Uniswaps and all of those. I don't like trading these, the trending and the biggest gainers and all of those. Most of the time, those are the ones that you'll see in news reports later, how nobody was able to sell out of their coins and they lost, $7 million on a dive down. No thanks. Those aren't my thing. I like looking at the top 100, which is by default what this list is, and then sorting by the 24% gain up and down. This will give me a general idea of what's moving well, what's not moving well, how things are going, etc. In fact, one of them that we were talking about is on that list, and we're finally getting a nice little lift here, is Mana to the upside. So you can see this is the upside objective higher on Mana, but we're continuing up. And with the rotation to the upside, we wouldn't have been able to find this unless it was over here, right? So I am getting a lot of those from just coin market cap. So what I like looking for, obviously, I'm a dip buyer, so I don't want to buy the ones that are up at the top. Click that again, and we'll see the ones that are not at the top. This is a little bit of a red flag, right? Over the last 7 days, it's down 25%, and over the last 24 hours, it's down 31%. So that means that if we adjust the difference, it was up over the last... It gave back its entire week of gains. Hey, we might have ourselves a nice little dip, right? That's one that might be of interest. Now, why that dip happened, I have no idea. You can look into the news later. I don't care about the news right now. We're just trying to find markets of interest. This is one that immediately jumps up to the top of my radar. Right? Look at where we are structurally. Look at the small little bitty pennant formation that's going on down here. Reload the sellers to the downside, fake them out, and go whoo, all the way back up to the top, maybe. Right? Or this could be a pennant continuation to the downside. Right, that's why you got to do the analysis. But at least we've got a market to work with. Add it to the list, create a list that you want to go through, and then, work your way through. So that's all I'm really doing. I'm just looking at which ones are on the dip, which ones are moving the most, how things are going with those markets, and then of course understanding why. Like why did this gigantic move to the downside happen? Was there news, or did something happen to the OMG network, the Omise Go network? Then you can do some research there, fundamentals. But then you go down the next list, KDA. KDA over the last 7 days is up 86%, and today it's down 16.5. So this is probably going to look like a pump and dump. Oh, actually, hey, pleasant surprise. That looks pretty freaking nice. I tell you what, this is definitely high up on the radar. Kind of bummed that I didn't get it down in the 4s now looking at it, but the zone of it, just kidding, obviously, hindsight trading. If we go back to the last major low that happened, to the impulse high, balance point be back in the 16s. Ugh. I wouldn't want to throw a ton on in the 16s, especially considering the low points down in the 6s. The risk is pretty high on that one. A little bit of a trap underneath the lows in the 1480s would be incredible. Trap everybody out, because everybody's long, right? And they didn't get long from here. They're getting long like here, where they're going to put their stop.
16 was mentioned too often
right there.
Between the EU and the UK.
Tasty. See if they can get it. So KDA in the 1490s, 15s, zone of interest. All right, but that's all it is. Just coinmarketcap.com. These are the ones that I like that are up over the last 7 days. This is crypto we're talking about, so 30-40% is pretty typical here. So seeing 40% but down today 13 or something like that could be of interest. But again, look at the chart, IOTX. This one looks like the pump and dump. So, it is what it is. This isn't necessarily one that I might be interested, but it's a sub-dollar one. So maybe fundamentally there's something of interest going on. We could have some pre-accumulation before a monster rally. We've seen these, 15, 20 cent ones go to $3, $4. So IOTX is a zone of interest as a Hail Mary, maybe down in the 12s or 13 cents. Sure. Don't expect it to be a huge winner, or don't expect it to be a very likely situation, so a huge win is necessary. Big reward versus small risk. But that's all it is. Just CoinMarketCap. Look at the top 100. Look at the ones that are moving. Some of them that I'm looking at that haven't already had their profit targets hit, audio, I think is a very interesting play. Audio is any of these NFT or audio-based things when you're coming to like the art sector. I think that's going to be the next explosive sector, is photography and art. Photography's already seen it, right? So what's next? Music. Well, okay. Music right around the, huge opportunities. And audio and other coins like that. In full disclosure, I am long on audio, so I'm not going to play it like I'm trying to pump up a stock. I am in it already. I'm not going to lie about it. I just like it as a possible follow-through because they've got a lot of big names backing it, and I think music is the next big industry. That aside, ETC, right? One of the big things on Ethereum Classic that I think all of us have been dealing with, we've been vindictively joking about it, but the fees, right? The fees on Ethereum are absurd. Oh, you want to send $100 to your buddy? That's going to be $700 in fees. Thanks. Oof. And I think people are going to start looking for shelter markets. And what better one than Ethereum Classic, right? It's like Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. Well, and then ICP is another one, not Insane Clown Posse, but Internet Computer. ICP is a very, very interesting project that I think could go absolutely catatonic. ICP in the foreseeable future, I could easily see in the hundreds, but for me personally, I'm looking at the long term where I see ICP up into like the 400s or 500s, maybe even stretching out into extended targets into the 2000s. So I really like ICP for a long play. Again, full disclosure, I am long ICP, so I'm not going to lie, it is one that I am backing for sure, but I'm looking for a long-term play on that one. The unfortunate side effect with ICP is the downside spans all the way down into the 20s, so by no means is this a value location. It's a nice middle dip, though. Let's see, what are some other ones? The Nasdaq's gone screaming to the upside. Now, I'll tell you what, looks really, really nice. Zooming in a little bit, this little candle gap that they formed in the 63.75s. Can they get a little bit of a dip down in this low area? Nice first pulse. Couldn't get that bottom fill down there. They got the gap test. Beautiful gap test. Couldn't get the scalp test. A little more. Come on, Nasdaq. There we go. A little more now. Get that follow through. Break on up through this bear bar. We've got a bull engulfing candle. See if they can stick the landing on this and climb it back up through those 70s. A lot of bulls, a lot of bulls will have gotten long in the 70s, and they're feeling like they got missed a little bit here. Slide back to the downside. I'm going to liquidate the last one on that smaller loss and just, it's just not worth it. Got the initial bump. That was about it.
UK Brexit Minister Frost said significant gaps are to be bridged between the UK.
What's a gap
and
test
EU.
and scalp test
So
that you just called in the
UK's
Nasdaq? So what I'm looking at is that last little candle gap that happened there. And what I mean is when you have a breakaway span, remember, the markets hate inefficiencies, despise them. They will come back over and over and over and over and over again to take care of them. That's how gaps fill, right? So when the market runs up like this and there is no space in between, meaning that from the top of this candle to the bottom of the next candle, there is no overlap. None. Right? Not a single one. That's a running gap. That one just took off and went screaming. The market hates those, and it usually likes to come back to fill them up. Those are usually the ones where if it can get going, you can get some really monster runs out of it, but, well, not today! They happen a lot more on tick charts than they do on time charts, but the same concept is true. They're inefficiencies left behind in the market, and the market hates that. So on a time-based chart, obviously, they'll look a little bit different. They're not going to look like your normal, like we were just talking about. They're going to look like this, where they'll have a little bit of that kind of in-between, but notice how the open to close is kind of hanging out there. That's sort of what I'm talking about. Very infrequently will a time-based chart give you a perfect close to open, because that's just, they're time-based. But a lot of times you'll see something like this, where there's still no overlap, it's just in a little bit of a different context, where it leaves this open window. The market hates that, so it comes back and fills them. Shuts the window. Don't let all the air out. The scalp test was the bounce off of that I didn't get filled for. I tried getting the little bit of a pullback. I took a little bit of an early entry, and when they had that secondary dip down, bought into that secondary dip and tried liquidating out. And when it popped up, I tried getting the extra one off, but it flushed down so fast that I missed it. The scalp test is effectively just going boop, boop, that little pop. They hit the zone of interest, they bounce off, they immediately fill in the scalps. It's kind of done, right? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy kind of thing, you know? Not easy, but you know what I mean. Well, while we're on it, let's see what other ones are moving. We might as well build a list here, huh? Man is doing incredibly well, which is awesome, because in the Discord room we were talking about that one, so that works out beautifully. Loop Ring is up 115%. That's part of that gaming sector, though. They're with Sand and some of the others. They're all going to look pretty close to the same. Yeah. Man alive, that looks just beautiful. Wow. What does this look like on logarithmic? Yeah. Let's see if we can get a continuation phase to the upside. That first pullback, the first pullback was an L2 into an L2. And they started running away, but they still got L2s. Then L1s. Finally pulling back into another L2. And now rolling all the way back up to the highs. And L2 is at 272. So if we can get an L2 pullback on loop ring down in the 272s, that's kind of a nice little spot there. Not quite there yet, though. A lot of shorts possibly stuck on the Nasdaq from these lows down here, looking for those shorts to possibly start jumping ship if they can get pulses close to there. Look at all the wicks building up on the low. Whew. Can they get a pulse down there? Not yet. Beautiful pulse back down into that low. There's the shorts jumping ship. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Finally. Only had a chance to get the one, but geez, all the other ones I feel like we've had to fight on for just constantly. Yeah, you too, Steve. Have a good one. Enjoy. Now that I can see what you're actually typing. Let's see. Before you close the room, show up with the 5-minute RTH chart and go over the first. Also failed ones. I got trapped on some of the bears. 5-minute chart. Yes. Study session. Of course, there's time. Or 500 tick on the ES would work too for counting bars. If you could zoom in. 13-inch monitor. For sure, yeah. Probably the S&P. I feel like the S&P on the 5-minute would make more sense. This little dip down here. Hang on. The next spot is going to be right down into these low 50s if they can dig down. Oop, that's not what I wanted. 5 minutes. Duplicate to a new window. Swap this
In 2
over.
minutes' time, we do have the bank.
Yeah, you too, Cedar. Have a good one. Enjoy.
Officer survey.
Have an awesome weekend. Let's see. Let's go to RTH. There we go. Nasdaq didn't quite reach down there for me. Maybe once more, but it's starting to get a bit later. We'll see. Anyway, we've got the 5-minute S&P. We're getting a little bit late into the day. Now we're going on 10:30. It's going to be difficult to want to keep rolling. All right, let me put you back over here, put you back over here, get that out of the way, put you over here. I don't think we need tick strike anymore. I'm not going to be scalping anymore, so I'm going to close that out. We've still got the swing going on the micro Nasdaq. I don't want to lose sight of that. And the S&P. Okay. So there we go. Where did the chat window go? Oh, there it is. Okay, and hang on, I'm missing something here. Let me delete all that stuff. Let me get rid of these. Just clean it up a little bit. That one is fine there. And I also need the bar numbers. Bar... Oh, crap, I never remember which one it is. I think it's that one. Oh boy, I can't see that at all. Jeez. All right, let me make a couple changes here. Hold on. Like for real, there's no way to make those bigger? Is it piggybacked to my font size? Where's the font size? Where's the font size? Font size. Font size. Font. There you are. All right. Is it tied to that? Let's. No. No. Oh, no. No. Let's swap this to. We can't have that now. 34. Whew, no, they're not tied to that. Okay, that didn't work. Everybody on Mars can see it though. That's good. Let's try the other one. Yeah, I don't want to edit the script. I'm being lazy, man. Come on, it's Friday. I don't want to edit script right now. Bar counter. Does that one work? It may be ugly, but can I make it big? 21 font size? Yeah, there we go. That big nasty. This one's so gross looking, but hey, man, it works. Is there a bold? No? All right, whatever. Good enough. All right. So as far as the start of the morning goes, right, we've got to give ourselves a little bit of context in what's going on. First off, the easiest way to do that is to zoom out and look at what's going on yesterday. Yesterday, we had a nice little gap up. Now, mind you, this was after a really strong drive down, but we had a gap up and predominantly went sideways, then went into the next day. So the assumption would be that, well, yesterday was probably an accumulation day, right? That's kind of how that works. Usually when the market's going sideways, it's coiling the spring. We haven't made a decision yet, so it's making a decision, right? So we need to see what they want to do. If we go down from the bottom to the top, and I know this is RTH, that's totally fine. We can go from the bottom all the way up to the top and kind of see, how do they want to play ball? Well, they left their POC back here. After they had a lower high after the first couple minutes, still back there. How about with this little trap in the new high? Still back there, all right? As we go in, how about now? We've got that new little high in there. There we go. Okay, so we have the sellers who finally built their position up in the 4650s. They were stuck from down there. Now they've rotated up. So we want to see, all right, well, did they get their job done? Let's measure from the top to the scalper's objective. Did they get their scalper's targets? Yes, they did. Did they show a response at the scalper's target? Yes, they did. So, is that a valid reason to believe that this area exists and is something that we should pay attention to as we go into today? Yes, it is. So the fact that the market gapped up into today and gapped up above their short entries, right? What are they looking to do today now? Right? They're like, whoa, wait a minute. Now hang on a second. I don't necessarily like that. I was short over here, and we were just taking profit, and it was looking good. What happened? We opened up here? Ooh, drive down. Get me out of this thing. We're back underneath break even. What do you think they're going to try to do underneath break even? Right? Try to get down to the scalp target. Can they make it down to the scalp target? Where did the market put in the double bottom today? That was the scalp target. So again, when we come back up, do we see the sellers still trying to push this down? Of course they are. They're still selling into that break-even point. They're trying to get it to rotate down. Now we're starting to close above. Ooh, crap. Uh-oh. Now do they jump ship? Well, they tried, but it ended up being a trap. That's tough, right? So first off, what likely happened here? We have the sellers trying to rotate to the downside, but we know that the sellers are a little bit nervous. This gap up sucks. That doesn't make anybody happy. So their first inclination is, crap, can I get out at break even? I wonder if I can be a cheeky little devil, as they say, and try to get out at that scalper's target, right? I wonder if I can make that happen. Sure enough, they got a 2-candle drive all the way down to settlement, all the way down to that target, and they were able to liquidate down into it. And they can play it off like, oh, it's just settlement. All that volume is coming in there just because they're filling the gap, right? That's why. Well, that is one of the reasons. But it's also because we're retesting their objectives. So when they first hit it, we have to see, did they prove it? Well, yeah, maybe. It's a big bear bar. bull bar bounce. Oof. Okay. Now we get a bear bar back to the downside, and it ends up being a trap directly off of that objective. So a second long to the upside above bar 5 makes a lot of sense for the bulls to try to keep it going, right? From a psychological perspective. I know in hindsight it's easy to say, oh yeah, you just go long there because it bounced there, herpy-dur, but we really want to know why. And the reasoning is very obvious. The sellers are getting out at their scalpers' objectives. If you were to look at this from the perspective of a re-up as far as a blind risk, because again, we don't have all of that extra information. We don't know what happened. So we have this, and then it bounces. Okay, well that's looking pretty good. We've got a bear bar down, like, oh man, do I really want to buy into that? You can feel the pressure. So it's like, oh man, I don't know. You know, I know yesterday their scalpers targets, they were right there. I don't want to sell into that. That doesn't seem smart. Let's see what happens. Oof. Okay. Well, now, wait a minute now. Second long above that bull bar. We've got a possible risk underneath. I mean, everything lines up. Now, 3-to-1 doesn't fit. I love going for 3-to-1s, but if we're looking at a 2-to-1 is back to the inside high, and if you're looking at the scalp is inside of the bear bar, still within the gap. So there's plenty of room for all scenarios above that. And we see the response. Now, it's no wonder why the market responded there, but in case we were looking at that thinking, okay, I want to be a buyer, but you can feel the nervousness. Like, man, it feels like I'm kind of buying a falling knife, you know? I'm just going to watch the bulls. I'm just going to watch them. Let's see what happens. Then we get a response off the scalp. Oh. Oh. Well, now, wait, now hold on a minute now. We have a reason to believe that the bulls tried getting in above that bull bar. They took a scalp, and now we're seeing some bear pressure back down. Okay. Well, we just saw the targets down here holding. We're creating a little bit of a pinch point. They're getting stuck trying to get inside of here. Shorts are selling directly into where? Exactly where they want them to. It's right into their targets. The shorts are literally giving longs their targets. Or shorts their target. You know what I mean? It's like they're just handing them over. That's all that's happening right here. But with this kind of bear bar, do you want to be the first one to the party to try to buy against that? That's tough. You know, selling in this direction, I mean, technically we've got a low and then kind of a double bottom. Maybe sellers will have a reason, but there's just so much crap in the way. It doesn't make any sense. Now, if they were going to sell, let's measure it up, right? If we entered in underneath that bear bar to the upside, do they have enough room for a scalp? I mean, if you have eyes, it should be obvious that we don't. But the support is here and our target is here. There's just not enough room, right? Not to say that sellers won't take it. They definitely could. But for me, when I look at that, it's like, there's too much stuff in the way, right? Now, let's pay attention to it because we want to see. I love finding good trap traders, right? Yeah, have a good one, laddie. I love finding a good trap trader. So if it's something that I wouldn't necessarily take, I still want to pay attention to it. How do they respond? Ooh, got him. We know what just happened right there, right? It's like, okay, the bears just got suckered in right into their entry point again after just getting trapped on the lows. They tried getting their breakout to the downside right here. Totally failed. And then it rolled back up, tried again, failed again. What do you think they're going to do if it rotates back down here? Right? I would be very, very likely to say that if it gets back down there, chances are bulls are probably going to be buying into that. The thing is, those bulls are actually just bears getting out. Right? That's the context right now. Hey, what do you know? Weird. It's crazy how it bounced right there. Right? It's the context. The context is everything, as we say. So, I mean, as it's playing out, we can kind of see how they're playing it back and forth here. We've got this vindictive back and forth, kind of nasty playing with each other's heads, right? So let's see, where are we right now? We know that the sellers rotated back out. The sellers got stuck at the base. The longs picked it back up. They rotated back higher. Cool. Where were their targets? If their stops were underneath the low and their entry was to get in where they were getting out, basically, did they fill targets? Well, I don't know. You tell me. Did we see responsiveness at these objectives? We've got the scalper's objective. Hard to see on the 5-minute chart. 2-to-1 objective. Pretty obvious to see on the 5-minute chart. 3-to-1 objective. Pretty obvious to see. And the 5-to-1 objective. Pretty obvious to see. Right? So do we have responsiveness off of this? Check mark, right? Done. Yep, we do. So we know that longs that were in this, or shorts getting out, whatever way you want to look at it, fueled this move up, and they took profit the whole way up. So when it dips back down here, who's going to be getting back in? All the bulls liquidated. Or the majority of them. I mean, maybe they've got like one contract left, you know? Like, I mean, really, what do they have left if you've hit a 7-to-1, 5-to-1 kind of move? Like, you're just not going to have very much size left. So realistically, right now, where are we bouncing off of? Have the bulls lost their grip? Well, doesn't look like it. Could the bulls use this as a secondary opportunity to try to buy to the upside? Yeah, sure. Is this contextually a good place to do it? It's a bit challenging. And you can see, look how hard they're having it if they tried buying above that bull bar. Noting the underlying context, I would be better served waiting for it to trigger an inside pullback. Say that the top is up at 51, right? Okay, well, if the top is at 51, I'm going to try to buy at 50. I want to buy a point off. Give me a discount. Right? Now, I don't know if it dipped down there, but you can see these little nuances for inside tricks like that. Like, I know the context here sucks, but if I get an entry at 50, I can get out where everybody else is trying to get in. Perfect. That's what I want. And you can see, you know, I mean, whether or not they did it after is hard to see on the 5-minute chart, but there's some really obvious gapping, and if they close to the upside, we know the market hates inefficiencies. Chances are it's going to pull back and probably get some of these traders back out again. These shorts got stuck. They got out. But if they weren't really sure, the market has been forgiving lately. Maybe it gives them one more test. So. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Nothing else really going on. We did have that dip down into that zone, but like I said, I mean, we're pretty much done trading anyway. We've got the micro Nasdaq, which is still hanging out. That's still doing its thing. Overall, looking at the numbers for the week, taking off the micro Nasdaq so it doesn't screw up all the freaking numbers. Let's look at, what is today? The 12th? So the 8th. The beginning of the week. Dollars and cents aside, I don't care about those. I just want to look at the numbers. There we go. All right. So for the overall week, from the 8th to the 12th, we've got, excluding the micro, because the micro is going to make the numbers look stupid. So the micro is not in this calculation. To be fair, it's still an open position, I guess. Doesn't really matter. But anyway, just so we're on the same page, rather. Quite a few trades this week. This was a heavy scalping week. There were 2 days of the week that right at about 9:34, we knew that we were dealing with some danger Will Robinson, right? So we know what's up, right? So 120 trades. That's a heavy week of trading. A lot of scalping. We see it in the numbers. As far as the numbers are concerned, if we look at the overall average, looking at the ratios, 65.83 minus 100 is 34.17 times the losses of 16. And then the winnings, 65.83 times the wins of 15 minus the difference gives us 440.73. So realistically, it's a relatively straightforward scalping week. We know that it was a difficult week. We know that it was a little bit weird and awkward. A couple of the days out of the week, we were talking about how it might be better to not even trade. Yesterday was a holiday. It's definitely a weird week. But the trader's math, even through all of that, still ending up in the positive, could be a little bit better. Right? Could be a little bit better, but for a difficult week, instead of the average of around the positive 600s for traders math and the 400s, I'll take it. You know, it's give or take. Good enough. And then the final question here, we will go over to Bitcoin. What happened to my chart? The question was, what's going on in Bitcoin overall? So if we're looking at the Bitcoin chart as an overall, I mean, one thing very obviously stands out is that we've had some serious ups. This thing has gone catatonically bullish. But if we're looking at the overall cycle and we zoom out to something like a daily, put this on logarithmic so it looks a little bit more natural, I suppose, and look at what's happening in the more recent, really we can kind of see here, actually, hang on. USDT, not on Binance, but on Poloniex. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So as far as the continuation phase goes, we're looking at a low all the way back in like the 2015 range, down in 174 for Bitcoin when we're talking about this rally up, okay? If we're talking about that whole move from the bottom all the way up to the top in that initial rally, we can see that the majority of the volume was actually not transacted down in the 200s, 170s, down in there. Now, if we go back to the beginning, even then, now this is Poloniex, but the volume is still not down there. The majority of the volume on that first rally up was at around 24.57. We all remember that. If you don't, you might be a little bit newer to the SSFTG party, but that is a level that we were talking about for a very long time in those 3,000s. And when the market finally gave us that pullback to the 3,000s, that was like hotcakes. Give it here, please. And that thing went screaming all the way up to the highs, had a quick little inside pullback down to 3,700s, and then ever since then, it's pretty much off to the races. But if we go through all of that into when they finally broke up to the next impulse high, and remember, that next impulse high, technically speaking, if you're looking at it, that next rally was all the way up to 20,000, and now we're still in breakout mode. I mean, put this into context here. I mean, really put this into context. The amount of upside potential is just stupid. If we take away logarithmic, we can see what's going on. They have a fantastic average down at the 2,500s. We know, by the way, why that was. That whole time, JP Morgan and Diamond and they were saying Bitcoin's a scam. It's garbage. You shouldn't buy it. They were the biggest buyer in the dip. Rotten. I mean, we know, right? We're not stupid. That's the beautiful thing about crypto. You can trail it. You dummies. So we know who that POC belongs to. That's JP Morgan. That's all of the major banks. That's their average. They're long from 2,500s. We know it. It's plain and simple. Now, with that in mind, if we continue this back to the upside with the understanding that the whole time they were building in was after all of this other crap happened, because we have to be realistic. There are a lot of funds that will accumulate aggressive things just out of risk assessment, but the size of them are usually incredibly small. So they were accumulating on this dip in the 3,000s. So I'm going to measure from that top when they were talking about how garbage of an investment this was, and we can see kind of where their average was is a little bit closer to around the 7,300s. I think this is a much more likely and realistic perspective of where they are in from. Not to say that buyers weren't buying down in the dip in the 3,000s. Obviously they were. But, right, we've got to really kind of put this into context. This slide down and this rotation up tells us that this thing could go absolutely nuts, right? Just crazy to the upside. Could is the big word here, because remember, this is logarithmic. It looks insane, but that's because as price goes higher and higher and higher, the scale on the side squeezes. We take away what's going on, you can see this doesn't look as healthy, right? So this is looking like it's starting to top out, and a lot of times when we have these, that's what you get, are those deep imperative pullbacks. That would place support back at 40,000. So there are some concerns, right? If we put this on logarithmic and see from an objective of the longs if they were averaged in at around the 7,200s. What the F? Why would you put my stop down there? Man, logarithmic's tripping over here. I don't know what that was about. Let's get this on the right side of things. Anyway. Okay, so the first rotation to the upside, if we're looking at a 2-to-1 projection, they've already worked through that, but that was back at the swing high, so it's a very likely area where they would have gotten in. But let's be realistic here, their stops may even be underneath here. That's a 56% drop. But looking at the continuation phase to the upside for a 2-to-1, was there a response there? Yes, there was. Okay, good. We might be onto something. Let's go a little bit further up. How about a 3-to-1? Was there a response at a 3-to-1? Interesting. We might be onto something. See what we're getting at a little bit here? As we continue on through the highs. The next one, 4-to-1 is not as big of one, but we can see there was a small response there. 5-to-1 is usually much more preferable, and as we can see, there was also a response there, and in fact, that's where the support started stepping up a little bit later. Continuing this on up to the highs, we have a 6-to-1, which really didn't have a whole lot of respect. Again, the even numbers usually don't do much. It's usually the 7s or the 8s when they actually hit the evens, and they hit the 7s right about there. Was there a response? Yeah, give or take. Pretty good. So, let's keep going then, all right? What about 9-to-1? Was there a response? Well, not as resistance. A little bit as resistance, I guess. A couple days. But mostly as support. Let's go across. Is there anything else to maybe be found there? A little bit inside of there. If it were to pull back, that would be a logical point of interest. You're buying off the bulls 9-to-1. How about 10-to-1? Where's that good old meaty 10? Right there. 11-to-1? 12-to-1. 13-to-1. How far did they go? 14-to-1. So a 7-to-1 times 2. They got a 14-to-1 on their average to the upside. That's where we are right now. So, I mean, just kind of keep that in mind, right? Buying where we are right now in the big grand perspective is incredibly expensive. But that said, this still has the potential to go ludicrously higher, because every time we've seen any drastic pullback before then, well, there hasn't really ever been another drastic pullback before then, which is something to take note of, because the last time that there was a heavy pullback was in 2015. It hasn't stopped going up since then. So, I mean, kind of is what it is, you know, but this is some pretty big distances we're talking about. It's about a 44% drop on that high. Got about a 36% drop off of that high. Got about a 40% drop on that high. Got about a 40% drop on that high. Are you noticing something? 35%. This one's tricky. A little inside pullback there, 43%. And then they've got another one, which is 38. Next pullback after that was 40. Next pullback after that was 32, getting a little shallow. And then it went absolutely nuts until we had the 84% pullback. So, I mean, we've got to look at this realistically. What's a common thing that typically happens on Bitcoin? I'll leave it up to the audience. I'll only give you 2 choices, though. 2 choices. Pick them. 2 choices. That's all you get. 40%. Yep, that's one of them. Perfect. All right. 1 out of 2. 80% would be the other one. Yeah. So we're looking at 40 to 80 on this pullback move in terms of the overall kind of conviction as far as what's going on. Well, realistically, if we look at the most recent pullback, we had an 84% pullback, and then we had this guy over here, which was 55. Now, the last time we had a big, heavy pullback, 54%, 55%, etc., well, that was over here. Right, when they had a big corrective phase that kind of reset the entire cycle before it went up to, well, 20,000. Wait a minute. Right? Let's just think. Let's project. It's about 6,500% above the highs. Okay. Well, if that's the case, the next pullback, if we do get a pullback, is probably going to be, just say give or take, around 40%. That would be a pretty likely pullback, right? So if we're looking for a value pullback, 38, 39, 40%, where does it put it? Right in the inside swings, 40,000. That is fantastic. That is a beautifully healthy pullback in an uptrend. Now, if they do want to go a little bit further, let's take this mentality and say, well, if we broke above that the last time, and the upside objective was what? 6,540%. 6,500% puts it at about 1 million, a little over 1 million. Now, can Bitcoin get to 1 million? Yeah. Why not? Nobody thought it could get to 3,000. Then it went to 20. And then nobody thought it would get back above 20,000 and everybody was going to lose all their money, and then it went to 60. And then it went to 61, and then 62, and 65, and then up to 69. So if we get a value pullback at 40% at around 40,000, what's stopping this from a continuation move literally up to $1 million? 60,000 doesn't seem so expensive anymore, which is why I'm still very up in the mindset of DCA. I think Bitcoin in its long-term future is incredibly bright. But, right, there are some things along the way to expect, like 40% pullbacks that will set up. And you better believe that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this to repeat. That low was 2015 to the high of 2017. That took 2 years. So 2020 to 2022. Hey, you know what's not very far away? 2022 is not too far away. Oh, baby. Could you imagine? Get a 40% pullback. Everybody thinks the world's falling apart, which in reality, that's when everybody should really be starting to buy in with some aggression, in my opinion. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. The warning's right there. It always is, right? But, I mean, realistically, look at this. This is nuts. It's insane. So, I think the pullback that we're seeing right now is nothing more than common sense. I think this is a very realistic pullback that could potentially go a lot further and a lot deeper down into those 40,000s. But from a healthy perspective, it fits. So, we'll see. But I think Bitcoin looks nuts. I think it looks absolutely crazy. The same thing for Crow. Oop, I have to add my... I've been cataloging it along the way since I launched the video, the $1 a day, how many Crow coins there would be, just so that I'm on the same track. Today, let's just say worst case is 35 cents. So $1 divided by 35 cents is 2.8. So another 2.8. Which means that this goes up 264.4 plus 2.8, 267.2. May not make sense as to why I'm doing that right now, but I've got some really cool ideas for this that I want to keep going. So, $1 a day since I launched the video. The average cost basis is up like 62%, but that said, I just wanted to keep track for my personal record as to where we're at, because I do buy every day. But I want to track the minimum, just $1 a day. Litecoin definitely caught up, but I think it's not done yet. Ooh. So anyway, I think Bitcoin has an incredibly bright future, but that said, it's not without some challenges. You know what I mean? So. How do you buy Crow daily with a credit card? Yeah. Or with a debit card. I'm a big fan of keeping things separated, so investment accounts I like having by themselves. So a debit card that you're using for crypto, to me, in my mind, should be its own bank account. So that way that debit card can be used specifically for buying Crow and whatever. I mean, everybody has their own way of doing things, of course, but I like keeping things very separated. The thing that I really love, man, I'm not going to go into it. We're already way over time, and I've got some videos that I don't want to ruin in terms of getting them recorded. So I'll leave it at that. But if you need a reference, the video is. Hang on, let me see if I can. So. First thing, youtube.com/slingshotfutures. You can bump on over to there. And then do a search. I believe I did. I put $1 in the name. Yeah, there it is. $1 per day micro investing for your future. This video goes over the concept. No. It's only 13 minutes long, so not too bad. Yep. What are the best marketplaces for NFTs? So this is more of a personal bias when I'm answering this one for me. I really, really love the Crypto.com NFT market. Not because I'm a Crypto.com fanboy, although I definitely am. I really love everything they bring to the table. But the ability and the ease of use that they bring to the table, I think, is exactly what is needed to make it even more mainstream. So I really like the Crypto.com/NFT network for theirs because it's beautiful. It works fantastically. You can buy an NFT with a debit card. I mean, like, for real. Then you can turn around and sell it. It's crazy. So huge fan of the Crypto.com NFT market. OpenSea and some of the other ones are a necessary evil, but any of them that operate on Ethereum, I hate. Primarily because it's like you have to use $1,000 to send $1,000 these days. It's ridiculous. So a lot of times I don't like those too much. That market's already saturated enough. I would rather get into markets that could potentially go further, that I already believe in personally, that I believe have a future. And those are the ones that I'll buy into. Just like Upland and some of the others. Speaking of, Upland is another fantastic spot to get them, but I think you're already in there, if I'm remembering correctly. What's the referral for Upland? Yeah, give me 2 seconds here. I don't want to open Upland yet because I bought a package and I want to do a video on, and I don't want to open the package on accident. So let me see if I can find it in chat. It should be on like all of my videos. So let me pop this open. This one goes over my weekly strategy. There should be a link for it in here, right? Am I stupid and I didn't put a link for Upland in here? Yeah, I sure am. Awesome. Good job, John. Nailed it. All right, let me see if I can find it another way. There it is. All right. I knew it was in there. There you go. Oops. Oops. Well, I'll post it everywhere, I guess. There it is again. That's the link for Upland. I've got another video that I'm going to be recording with that in not too long, probably a little bit later today, actually. Should be fun. Anyway, that's going to do it. We did have a little bit of overtime today, but again, with some technical issues and the fact that I missed like all of chat to start the day off, well, kind of had to go with it. So anyway, that's going to do it. As per usual, if I miss any questions, you can always shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com, and yeah, we can go from there. As we go into the weekend, like we always talk about, make sure to spend some time getting away from the markets. Do something that you enjoy doing, and spending some mental time resting. We make more decisions in one day than most people make in a week. It's kind of a necessity to get some break going. So anyway, enjoy the weekend, rest up, and we will see you all back on Monday, all right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.